Welcome to Nobody Told Me. I'm Laura Owens.
And I'm Jan Black.
One of our goals on Nobody Told Me is to bring you conversations with truly inspiring people whose own challenges in life may make you think differently about your own life. That's exactly what we're doing today with our guest on this episode, Michael Crossland, who is one of Australia's most sought-after inspirational speakers.
Michael's autobiography, Kids Don't Get Cancer, is an international bestseller, detailing his life following the diagnosis and treatment of an aggressive, life-threatening cancer before his first birthday. His life has been far from easy, yet he's refused to let his dreams die, and he is passionate about helping other people achieve their dreams too. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. It's great to be a part of the interview.
For people who aren't familiar with your story, tell us about what happened when you were an infant that set your life on a different path from the rest of us.
I was 11 months old and I went to the hospital with my mum and my sister. My sister had a pretty bad ear infection. And as we were leaving the room, I'm much more of a hugger. I don't really do the handshake thing. And I give the doctor a big hug and his knee brushed my stomach and he thought that didn't feel right. I was then taken to a different part of the hospital. That night I was airlifted to Sydney Hospital. And the following morning, I was diagnosed with an incurable cancer of the central nervous system called neuroblastoma stage 4. The doctors said that there was no chance of survival to take me home and allow me to live the next few months with my family because there was nothing that they can do. But I was very fortunate that I had a very stubborn and very determined mother. And she just asked one question. And that was, I don't want to know what the chances are of my son dying. I just want to know what the chances are of my son surviving. The doctor said that I had a 96% death rate. They said, just go home. Don't put your boy through that sort of pain. But like everybody listening, we all have choices. And the choices that we make each and every day can help reshape, remold, and redefine our future. And my mum asked one simple question, and she got the answer that she needed. And she chose to look at my life not being 96% empty, but she chose to look at my life being 4% full. Started chemo on my first birthday and 9 days on, 3 days off for nearly 4 years. And unfortunately, the treatment wasn't doing the job. I had to go into surgery. I went into surgery. 6 hours later, the doctors came out and said they didn't get it all. And basically, that was meant to be the end of my journey. But there was an American doctor. He was going to trial a test drug on 25 patients. And they had 24 candidates, and I was very fortunate to be number 25. But as you know, the after effects of that drug were very, very bad. Within 24 hours, we were all transferred from the oncology ward to the burns unit. We were completely covered from head to toe in blisters. But unfortunately, in a very, very short period of time, 24 out of the 25 of those kids on that trial drug passed away. So I was the only survivor, and I say to people all around the world that I'm one of the lucky ones, but I never say I'm one of the lucky ones because I'm still alive. I say I'm one of the lucky ones because I wasn't my mum.
What did she do to make you feel normal, and how did her attitude influence your attitude?
I think that she told me at a very young age that I needed to have a dream and a goal and a vision, and that was something for me to hold on to and strive for. She taught me some really powerful lessons as a baby. One of the lessons she taught me was that it is not the adversity in your life that defines you. It is how you deal with it that allows you to live a remarkable life. And I know, and I'm sure everybody listening knows, that we all have a story. You know, every one of us has a journey. Every one of us has a battle. But I think that it's about how we deal with that battle. It's how we deal with that pain. It's how we deal with that suffering that truly allows us to be the best versions of ourselves. And that whole dream thing, she said to me one day in hospital, she said, I want you to tell me what you're going to do in your life and what's your big dream. And as a 5-year-old boy, I said to my mum, when I grow up, I don't want to be a policeman. I don't want to be a fireman. I don't want to be an athlete. I just want to be normal. I just want to go to school. I want to make friends. I just want to go home. And she said, son, that dream's not big enough, because if you don't have a big dream, you're not going to get stretched. And if you don't stretch, you don't grow. So I want you to tell me what your dream is. And the next day she came in and she said, you come up with a bigger dream? I said, yep. She said, what's that? I said, not only do I want to be normal like everybody else, but one day I want to play baseball in America.
And you reached that dream.
Yeah, it was a very long journey. When I was finally allowed to go home, the doctor said I would never go to school. I would never play sport. I'd be a housebound baby. And if I reached my teenage years, it would be a miracle. And my mum come through the curtains, and I made out I didn't hear what the doctor said. And I said, "What did the doctor say?" And she said, "Oh, the doctor told me that everything was going to be okay." And my mum carried the fear and the burden of her son dying because she wanted me to lead a normal life. She let me go to school. I loved school. She let me play the game that I loved. That was baseball. Yes, there was a lot of hurdles along the way. My time at school was horrible. You know, I say to people that sometimes my time at school was harder than my time in hospital because there wasn't one day in hospital that I didn't get picked on. There probably wasn't one day at school where I didn't get picked on. Every day in hospital, I just felt like I was like everybody else. But when I was at school, I realized that I was very different. I had no hair. I had no eyelashes. I had no eyebrows. But I had this big dream, and I was going to do everything I could to make that happen. And my health deteriorated rapidly when I was 12. I unfortunately had my first heart attack, and the doctors said that my heart was so badly damaged from the trial drug as a baby that he recommended that I never play sport again. And my mum come through the curtains, and I said, "What did the doctor say?" And she said, "Oh, the doctors told me everything's going to be okay." And 3 years later, I was lucky enough to make the under 16 Australian Expos baseball team, and I got a chance to fly to America and achieve my dreams and listen to our national anthem, watch our flag get raised. I played in that same team for a few years, and then when I was 17, I was lucky enough to sign a scholarship to live in America and play baseball down in Texas. So it's amazing when you dream big and you stretch yourself, what you can achieve.
How did it feel when you got to tell her that you had accomplished that dream and that you were going to play baseball in America? I can't even imagine.
It was the most exciting yet the most heartbreaking conversation I've ever had to have, because I knew that so much of her heart wanted me to go, but there was so much of her heart that wanted to keep me at home. And I think that as a parent, I'm sure you will move mountains. You will sacrifice everything you have and give away all of your possessions to see your children achieve their dreams. And she certainly did exactly that. She let her little baby boy fly.
Yeah, and you know what else I think is so remarkable about her? And I'm not trying to knock you at all, Mom, but I'm saying I think that a lot of parents, if their children were sick like you were, I think my mom would have tried to be too cautious in some ways and, you know, maybe not encouraged me to have these big dreams. And I think it's wonderful that your mom did.
Yeah, I think that too often in today's society, we wrap them up in cotton wool, protect them in bubble wrap, and make sure that nothing can hurt them. But I believe that really takes a child's ability to be resilient and be courageous and be determined. There's so many kids that I know parents have done that with their challenges, and they truly believe that they're different and that they believe that they can't achieve things and they exist as opposed to truly live.
The title of your autobiography is Kids Don't Get Cancer. Why did you choose that?
Yeah, very controversial title, and it certainly had some headwaves here in Australia when it was released. When I was diagnosed at 11 months, the doctor said to my mum, we're terribly sorry, but your son has a terminal cancer and there's nothing that we can do. And my mum's response to that exact wording was, "Oh, no, that can't be right. Kids don't get cancer." Then my mum called my dad and said, "You wouldn't believe it, but our little boy's got cancer." And my dad said, no, that can't be right. Kids don't get cancer. And then my dad told the family and the kids and my 3 older sisters, and they all said, no, that can't be right. Kids don't get cancer. And my mum said to me when I was fighting in hospital, she said, "One day, son, when you've gone out into the world and you've made a true impact and made it a little bit better place, you're going to write a book, and it's going to be called Kids Don't Get Cancer." And 30 years later, I wrote that book, and now it's a bestseller in 6 countries around the world, and we donate all the profits to charity. So we've been able to make a really remarkable impact from that book.
And can you tell us more about all of these amazing things you've done with your life since you stopped playing baseball?
Yeah, I was only in America for 6 months before my heart deteriorated. I didn't finish college, and I never played baseball again. I was sent back to Australia, and I think that it's so true in the world we live in that we wait until it's too late before we decide to change. We wait until we're diagnosed with lung cancer before we decide to stop smoking. We wait until we're diagnosed with diabetes before we change our diet. We wait until we lose someone that we love before we tell them that we love them. And my journey was done. My sporting career was finished, and I came back. I got a normal job. I've never really been a plan B guy. And what I mean by that, I think there's a lot of people in the world that have a plan A and have a plan B. And when they get halfway down plan A, they think, you know what, it's just too hard. I might just quit and go to plan B. I'm a guy that has a plan A. And when I give 110% at plan A and I fail, then I come up with a new plan A. So I got a job in banking and I worked my way up very, very quickly. Within 4 years, I was the youngest national sales development manager for one of the largest companies in the world. I reported directly to the CEO. I had 120 banks, 600 staff around Australia and New Zealand. But I was driven by the 3 Ps that destroy people. I was driven by power, privileges, and possessions. I felt that it was imperative for me to have $1 million house. I thought it was critical to have a $100,000 sports car, wear a Rolex, Armani suits. I felt like it was important for me to create the perception of what I thought success was. But when I achieved this financial gain and the materialistic possessions, I realized that one thing was missing, and that was the one thing that I longed for, and that was happiness. And I was so far away from being happy. And it took me until 2010 for me to hit rock bottom, for me to change the way I looked at my life. And in 2010, I had I got fluid on the brain. I had Bell's palsy down the right-hand side of my body. I had to learn to walk again and talk again. And I remember my wife, she would come in every night and she would say to me in hospital, I love you, and I'll see you in the morning. And I would say, I love you and goodbye, because every night I would lie in bed. I just pray to God that I wouldn't wake up. I got to a point where I just didn't want to fight anymore. And I thought to myself over and over again, how many times does one man need to get kicked before you give me a chance to lead a normal life? Mm-hmm. And every day in hospital, I got greater clarity and understanding what was truly important. And I realized that all I needed to do was master 2 things and my whole world had changed. And those 2 things I needed to master was I needed to master the gift of giving, and I needed to master what success was. And for me, for a long time, I thought success was about how big my house is. But I understand now that success is about how big my heart is. Success is about getting out of bed and knowing in your heart that you can make a difference in somebody else's life. And the second thing I really needed to master was this whole gift of giving. And I thought for such a long time the saying was, the more you give, the more you shall receive. But I understand now the saying should be, the more you give expecting nothing in return, the more you shall receive. And I think the saying should be, we need to give without remembering and receive without forgetting. And that's when I walked away from the corporate world. I opened my own charity where every cent gets sent. And I decided to have a goal and a dream to make a global impact. And that's when I went down to Haiti, and I rebuilt a school for 120 little kids in a remote village called Bouvier after the earthquake hit and killed 316,000 people. And on the way back, my wife and I were told that we'd never be able to have kids due to my ongoing health challenges. And we decided to open an orphanage. And now we have 41 of the sweetest little kids that you could ever imagine. Every one of these kids, they get 3 meals a day. They get a roof over their head. And just as important, they're getting an education. They're realizing that the pain and suffering that they were brought up in is not normal. And they can achieve some remarkable things. And like one little boy, the first day I met him, I said, what's the best part about living here in the orphanage? And he said, the best part is I get a bowl of rice guaranteed every second day.
Wow.
He said, when my mum, my dad, and both my brothers died, I lived on the streets for 4 months, and the only food I would get would be out of garbage bins. I said, well, if that's the best thing, what's the worst thing? And he said, the worst thing is of a nighttime, because of a nighttime, that's when my entire family got taken away from me. And where I sleep, I have this little tarp over my bed, and when it rains, I get soaking wet because it leaks really bad. He said, but it doesn't matter whether it rains or not, I still get soaking wet because I share a bed with 2 little boys, and both of them still pee their pants.
Oh.
You know, and it makes me reflect every day that it is not the adversity in your life that defines you. It's how you deal with it. And I know that you're aware, in 2016, I unfortunately got very unwell again. They found 4 tumors in my throat. They told me that my tomorrows weren't guaranteed, and I had to prepare my own funeral, and I had to do a video message saying goodbye to my family. And I decided to postpone surgery just long enough for me to be able to write that book, so that book was supposedly going to leave a legacy and take care of my wife after I was gone. But I got through surgery. They removed 3 out of the 4 tumors. The 4th tumor, unfortunately, is a pretty nasty spot. There's nothing they can do about it. But I realized in my life that the quality of one's life is not dictated, nor is it determined by the amount of days that we live on this earth. It's about what we fit into those days that allows us to live a remarkable life. And I'm certainly packing in a lot into my life. And I know that when my time is up on this earth, my tank is certainly going to be empty. And I know that many people in this world live their life like it's a dress rehearsal. But I know that this is the only shot we have, and this is the only life I have. And I'm going to do everything I can to make the world a bit better place whilst I'm still here.
You know, this is the time of year when a lot of people are thinking about New Year's resolutions, and I love your take on those. You say each year it is critical that we take time to reflect on how far we have come instead of how far we still have to go. Elaborate on that a little bit, if you would, please.
Yeah, I think that there are two types of people in the world. There are those that use their pain and suffering as the justification behind why they fail. And there are those that use the exact same pain and suffering as the motivation to succeed. And I think it's all about the choices that we make. So we can reflect back on the year that was and think, oh my God, we didn't achieve this, we didn't achieve that. And we're setting ourselves up for a negative mindset, and we're going to set ourselves up for failure. Or we can think, you know what, regardless of what we didn't accomplish, we've managed to get through 365 days this year. We've been able to, be transparent, or whatever those points of positivity that you can draw from what you've been able to accomplish this year. The more that we focus on the positives in our life, the more that we can focus on the things that we have done as opposed to what we have not done. I think that's when we can truly shift our mindset and allow us to be in the best place that we possibly can be. I think that sometimes the things that we wanted so much that didn't happen was the greatest things that we never really needed in our life.
Oh, I love that. What lessons can everyone learn from your story, your own personal story, about coping with our own mortality? Because I feel like, I have been fortunate to not have to deal with a lot of the things that you've dealt with. But at the same time, I think we all worry about death to some extent.
Mm-hmm. I try and remember every day that you're as old as you've ever been, and you're as young as you'll ever be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I know that there's been plenty of times in my life where I've been given an end date. And firstly, I would strongly persuade and push and hopefully inspire people listening to this to not wait until you get given that end date before you decide to make choices in your life that are going to allow you to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And for me, I really have replaced my fear of dying with my faith in God, and that has alleviated so much pain, fear, and worry. For so long, I thought that I was walking alone, and I realized that through those darkest days, I was being carried, and that has brought so much peace into my life and into my family's lives. And I am filled with gratitude every single day that I wake up on this earth. I love the saying, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I reflect back on my beautiful little babies in Haiti, and they wake up every morning and they have no iPads, no laptops, no nothing. And they wake up every morning and they think that today is going to be an amazing day. And the reason why they think it's going to be an amazing day is because they woke up this morning. And I think, Can you imagine if we all woke up every single morning thinking, regardless of the challenges, the pain, the suffering that we are facing in our lives, that we had the innate blessing and the incredible privilege of simply waking up this morning. It is about the choices that we make each and every morning when our eyes open that will determine the incredible success that we will have in our life. And success not being determined by the wealth that we create, but the lives that we can impact. And, I think the biggest and the greatest accomplishment in my life was the one thing that I was told would never happen, which has caused the greatest pain, yet brought me the greatest joy. And that was being told all my life that I would never be a father and never be a parent because I have so much love to give. And after 5 years of IVF, my beautiful wife and I were informed that we were finally pregnant, and we were due to have a baby the end of February 2018. And that was just the most exciting chapter of our life, and it was going to be incredible. And then on the 8th of December, we we were taken to hospital because my wife had a lot of back pain, and she was 2 centimeters dilated, and she was put on every steroid under the sun. And then on the 12th of December at 6:40 p.m., we were blessed with a beautiful little boy. He only weighed 2.8 pounds, and he was 10 weeks early, and he was very, very unwell. He had a horrible infection. They filled him with drugs for 4 weeks, and then we got the great news that we were allowed to take him back to our local hospital. But on the way back to the hospital in Coffs Harbour, he contracted an illness called sepsis, which is a blood disease, and we were told that we only had 4 days with our little boy. And that afternoon, we were transferred back to Sydney Hospital, and on the way back, he was resuscitated twice on the plane, and signs were not looking good. But then about 5 days later, I captured a photo of him looking at my beautiful wife with a smile, and I thought, I truly believe that everything's going to be okay. And our beautiful little boy turned 1 just a few days ago, and he has opened a new valve in my heart to understand what true love is and what true happiness is. And I just think that so often we get out of bed and we complain about the first world problems that we have in our life until all of a sudden we're faced with a real problem, with real pain and real suffering, and then we decide to change. And I just want to emphasize that it is critical that we get up every day just filled with so much gratitude for the simple things.
What message would you have for someone who is struggling right now, someone who's struggling with a personal crisis or a family crisis or a financial crisis and just doesn't know where to turn? I mean, you've faced so many of those things in your life.
I think that perspective is the most powerful tool that we can all live our life by. The more that we can step out of our own shoes and look at life through someone else's eyes, the more that we can realize that the problems that we're facing aren't that bad. And what's the worst possible thing that could happen? I think that controlling our mindset is really, really the key to every challenge that we face. And we have a choice to live above the line or below the line. And I think that when we live below the line, we're a victim. It's scientifically proven that we will become a victim more than 40 times a day. And it's okay to be a victim. It's okay to have our mindset think that life is a little challenging, a little tough. But what's critical is how long we choose to stay below that line and how long we choose to live our life as a pity party, where we need to just take ownership, accountability, and responsibility of our life. We need to stand up and grab our oar and steer our ship in the direction we want to take it. I realize that there are only 3 steps in life that we need to take to allow us to control our mindset and become the best version of ourselves. And the 3 steps are: we need to move. When I was diagnosed in 2016, I went back home, I pulled the doona over my head, I thought life wasn't fair. And then I realized the first thing I need to do is I need to move. So I got out of the shower, I got out of bed, I went to the beach, I went for a walk, I went for a swim, and then I ran into a mate of mine, and I realized the second step that I must do to get above the line is I need to share. I need to share what's on my heart. I need to share how I'm feeling. I need to share what's going on in this mind of mine, which helps give me some great clarity. And then he said, "Hey, do you want to come around for dinner? Let's go back to our house." So I went back to the house for dinner, and we had an amazing dinner. My wife joined us, and then on the way home, I realized the third step that we must do is we must help. We must help people that are less fortunate than what we are. And I decided to help. And one thing I love to do is I love to pay for people's gas. So in Australia, you pump the car full of gas and then you go inside and pay. Maybe we're a little bit more honest than you folk back over there. I stand at the pump for 10 minutes waiting for the guy to click the thing to make me allow to put the gas in. And then he comes out and says, "You've got to come in and pay first." And you go, "Oh, great." So you go and you pay $60 for gas, and then you come out and your car only takes $43. And then you wait 3 weeks for the $17 to go back in your bank account. So I realized we needed the help. So I paid for somebody's fuel, paid for my fuel, and we drove into the driveway that night. And this is the same day that I was told my tomorrows weren't guaranteed. And my wife asked me, "How did you go at the doctor's today?" And I think to myself, what would my answer have been if she called me at 11 a.m. when I was lying in bed thinking my life wasn't fair and living below the line and being a victim, versus what my conversation was at 10 o'clock that night when I drove in the driveway after I had moved, after I had shared, and after I helped. And I think those 3 steps have been critical and the key to allowing me to get up every time my mind and my body and the doctors tell me to stay down.
And I know that some of our listeners may be dealing with some emotional issues like depression or anxiety. And I've been public with the fact that I have struggled with those myself. And I just wanted to say that I think that moving and sharing and giving have also really helped me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the more that we understand that we need to, there's a saying that I really try and live my life by, and that has helped me massively with anxiety. And that is, your head needs to be where your body's at. And I know it sounds really silly and crazy because your head's always where your body's at, but I think that our head is actually never where our body's at, because we are constantly fearful of what might be tomorrow. We're so regretful of what could have been yesterday, we forget to focus on what is right now. And Google says we look at our phones more than 600 times a day. 600 times we are no longer present in the people that mean the most to us. You know, the people that love us and care about us the most are the people that we hurt the most, because we are so distracted by outside things that are completely irrelevant to the life that we get to live. So the more that we can focus on truly being present, having our head connected to our body and understanding our surroundings, that alleviates massively the anxiety of what might be or what could have been.
Michael, our show is called Nobody Told Me, and we always ask our guests, what is your Nobody Told Me lesson? So what is it that nobody told you about life or about illness or about struggle, whatever it might be, that you kind of wish you had known or that someone had told you and you'd kind of like to pass along to somebody else?
Yeah, I think that nobody told me that you learn far more from a loss than you'll ever learn from a win. And that has filled me with so much gratitude and joy, truly understanding that, and now being able to understand that it feels far greater to give than to receive.
I think that could be my favorite Nobody Told Me lesson so far.
Yeah.
I really do. I think you're such a symbol of perseverance for a lot of people, and I'm so glad I got to become familiar with your story by watching you on Goalcast. And for anybody who hasn't seen that, just look up Michael Crossland and Goalcast and you will find it. And I promise you will be absolutely glued to your screen for the whole time you're speaking.
And Michael, how can people connect with you on the internet and on social media?
Yeah, thank you. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. And, you know, I'm very fortunate and very blessed to have people like you guys that want to share my story. But for me, I am just an ordinary old Australian that has faced my fair share of adversities, and now I'm very privileged to get a chance to travel the world and share it with people. And I just have a goal every day to get out of bed and make a difference in one person's life. And if I've been able to do that whilst I'm having a chat with you guys, then I feel like today is going to be a remarkable day.
And you know you've made a difference in millions of lives, and we certainly thank you for impacting ours.
My pleasure.
Our thanks to Michael Crossland, whose book is called Kids Don't Get Cancer. His website is michaelcrossland.com. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
You're listening to Nobody Told Me. Thank you so much for joining us.